So let's now see how we can create our directories and files. First, let's see how we can create new directory. For this example, we will import our log package, but also we will import our OS package. From our OS package, we will call specific functions which will create our directories. For creating new directories, we have two functions, make directory all and make directory. So let's now see in practical example what is the difference. If we call make directory function from our OS package, that function will give us only one value, which will be type of specific error. So in this case, if we successfully created our directory, error will be nil. We must pass two different values to our make directory function. First will be the name of our directory which we want to create, and second will be permissions which we want to give to that specific directory. Let's now call our make directory all function. Our make directory all function will create every parent which doesn't exist on path which we want to create our specific directory. So in this case, our dir2 directory doesn't exist, which means that our function will first create that specific directory, and then after that we'll create directory dir3. Let's now execute our application so we can create new directories. Now, inside of our directories folder, we can see new directories which we created from our application. Let's now see how we can get informations about specific directory and how we can create directory only if that specific location doesn't already exist. First, we will call our stat function from our OS package. We will pass specific string value for our location of our directory. Then, that function will give us one specific type of error. Now, we want to check type of that error. First, we will create a new if statement, and in our condition, we will check if our error is not exist error inside of our OS package. If that is the case, then our directory doesn't exist, and inside of our if statement, we can create implementation which will create our new location. If that is not the case, and we already have that specific location, we will create else block, and inside of that block, we will print message that directory already exists. Now, let's execute our application. We can see the message that directory already exists. Let's now see how we can rename our location and how we can remove it. For this example, we will create two new variables, original path and new path. So now we want to rename our location dir1 to dir4. For this case, we will call our rename function from our OS package, and we will specify two values as our input variables. Then, after we rename that location, we want to remove that directory from our system. To do that, we will call our remove function from our OS package. In cases where we cannot rename or remove our specific directories, we will get specific type of error. We also want to remove dir2 from our system, but as we can see, our dir2 directory is not empty. We have another directory, dir3, inside of that directory. So for this case, we cannot use remove function. For this case, we will use remove all function from our OS package. This function will remove our dir2 directory, but also all data inside of that directory. Let's now execute our application so we can see the difference. As we can see, we didn't get any message, which means that we didn't get any error. So we had three situations. In first, we renamed our specific location, then we removed that specific location after we renamed it, and then for the last stage, we removed dir2 directory and all the data inside of that directory. Let's now create our new files and modify them. Before we start to write code, we will create two new directories. Let's now create our first file. To create our new file, we will call create function from our OS package. We will pass specific location and the name of our file to our function. We will get an error if that specific file cannot be created, or if we can create that file, we will get new variable, new file, and that variable will be our new buffer. We can print value of our new file variable so we can see what this variable contains. So our buffer will be responsible for our memory for specific file which we created. That means when we finish with modifying our new file, we must close that buffer. We will access our new file variable and that variable will call function close. Now we can check our new file and we can get all informations about that file. We will call our function stat from our OS package and we will pass specific location and the name of our file. Stat will return us informations about our file. Our new variable, file info, contains all informations about our file. We will access our file info variable and for each information we will call specific function. For the name of our file, we will access our file info variable and we will call from that variable function name. Below that, we can see one possible value for our output. Let's now execute our application. Now we can see the output and also we can see that we have new file test1 inside of our testing directory. Let's now see how we can rename, transfer and remove our specific file. We want to rename our test1 file. For that, we will use our rename function from our OS package. So now, name of our test1 file will be modified and new name will be test2. Now, we want to transfer our file to another directory. So we want to transfer our test2 file to our testing2 directory. We will also do that with rename function, but as we can see, locations for our path are not the same. So we specified the same name of our file, but location in first case is testing and in second case is testing2. Now we will transfer test2 file from our testing directory to our testing2 directory. Last, if we want to remove that specific file, we will call our remove function from our OS package. Let's now execute our application. As we can see, we didn't get any error. Now, if we look inside of our directories, we can see that we don't have any files.